Welcome back to the Inside Texas Baseball Show. I'm your host, Evan Veith, as always joined by Nash Talks Texas to my right. I'm in a new location, as always. I feel like you're not going to see me in the same spot for about a month. I don't know what's going on, but Nash, it's been a big week of news for this Texas baseball team. A lot going on, a lot maybe about to happen going on. I think what we're going to start with, of course, is the big news that just happened yesterday, which is Will Gasparino hitting the transfer portal because that's a big name in the Texas circles. He was the number one recruit coming in the class, the last, major class that David Pierce brought in. It was him and Travis Sikora. Sikora ended up going to the MLB. Top 50 player in the country. Started as a freshman as a center fielder. Did so as well this last year. And just seemed like at the end, he kind of lost the touch with the bat. And of course, with some of these outfield prospects that have been added to the team, he is going to enter the transfer portal. It's official. I think UCLA is the team that's one to look out for with him. And that would be a great lateral move for him to go to another top program. But Nash, what's your reaction to this immediately when it happened, and why do you think this is the decision that Gasparino made?
I think there's a couple of factors that come to play here. One, he really did struggle versus the SEC pitching. Really his numbers are kind of similar, but if you were watching baseball this year, Gaspo was a dude that I believe he was hitting in near the 300s about like halfway through the season, and then it just started to crater when he got into SEC play, and especially towards the end of the year. Towards the end of the year, he was, I think, a sub 150 hitter, and this isn't talk that like Gaspo is a incredibly talented baseball player, an excellent defender. His
Really good
defense
glove.
is is about as elite as it gets, right? It's hard to be able to find a glove like that with speed and then to add on arm, and that's just perfect what you want in center field, right? But I think all these factors, and then also you look at, I think you're going to start to see, the candidates that he's looking at. I think he's going to start to, head closer to home. He's from
Yeah,
California, so get back out on the West Coast, and just really wish the best of luck for him because this is, in my opinion, I was when I was going over the roster with some people, I'm like, hey, this is a dude that he's either the 9 hole or he's the 2 or the 4 hole, right?
yeah,
Because
kind of know in between.
he has that potential to always be the best player on the baseball field.
Yeah, and that's what he came in. He was pretty much the equivalent of a 5-star coming into this school, and that's why everyone was so confident about that freshman and sophomore year jump with a new head coach, new system coming in, and it felt like he maybe didn't quite agree with the approach. Agree may not be the word, but the approach that Schlossingle wants for his hitters did not work well with how Gasparino hit. Gasparino needed to attack a little bit earlier because two-strike hitting was a big problem for him. It felt like he was in a 1-2 or 0-2 hole a lot of his at-bats late in the year. And I think of two distinct points with Gasparino in the season. One, he started the year fantastically. He was arguably the best player on the team that went into that Shriners College Classic and won it. And then the Missouri series, where we were saying, this is the hottest hitter in college baseball. He had 4 home runs against Missouri. But then when it started becoming the actual SEC pitching, not Missouri SEC pitching, it really tanked down. I remember a stat I wrote down in my article was last 24 games, he had 12 hits, but 27 strikeouts. And that kind of was just what happened and marred the end of the season, marred how a lot of Texas fans felt about him. And felt like he was kind of maybe not a scapegoat at the end of the year, but definitely the target of a lot of blame, a lot of hate. But he's might be joining what Tommy Farmer did, another player who entered the portal a lot earlier from California. Farmer went to UC Irvine. Let's see where Gasparino ends up if he ends up being close to home. I know his dad's got some Los Angeles Dodgers ties, so you got to wish for the best for him. But a lot of this comes from, of course, the commitment of Aiden Robbins, which happened in between the last 2 shows we've done, or the last show we did. Aiden Robbins from Seton Hall, in my opinion, this was the biggest transfer Texas got here. I don't think he was the number one on 64 analytics' big board, but this is a potential all SEC bat who is coming in and going to start in this outfield immediately. And he swings the bat so well, and also brings some pretty decent defense, probably a corner outfielder. But I'm just super excited for what that signing was. And I think that might have been one that kind of took Gasparino over the edge of, I do not have a secure spot here.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify something. Correct something, not clarify. He actually was hitting SEC ball pretty well, like LSU, Mississippi State, Georgia, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
He just got into a slump, and I think that this is one of those
That last
series
month.
where, yeah, or just towards the end of the year, he only out of LSU, Georgia, Mississippi State, Kentucky, he only had 2 games without a hit, and quite a few of them were multi-hit games. So it is one of these deals where it's just unfortunate, fresh change of scenery. But going on to Aiden Robbins, man, this is a guy that is widely considered as the best hitter in college baseball. Like that, there's I wouldn't say you're probably not going to find as easy a consensus on this uh, for any sort of statistic because everybody's going to have their own guy that they like. But Aiden Robbins, he's hit 422.
Yeah.
This is a legit dude. I know he's coming from Seton Hall, right? Uh, all that stuff, but this is a guy that, man, he's legit. Aiden Robbins is about as legit as they come. And
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see because he's a guy that he can hit. He's not going to really hit for too much power,
Hmm.
but there is some power in that bat, and he's going to hit a lot of extra bases.
Yeah, just 6 homers on the year, but like you said, over fours on the batting average. He's like, if it weren't for Ethan Mendoza, I would say he's a lock and loaded leadoff hitter for this team. 2, 3, 4 spot is where you're going to see him. He's going to slot right in there. He stole a lot of bases, walked a lot, not a terrible strikeout rate. Something that Schlossingel's been looking out for is guys who are walking more than they're striking out, which is something the team really struggled with last year. I mean, Gasparino, Galvan, Borba, Farmer, all guys who I see as strikeout problematic hitters at that point. And that really made the outfield crowded because you think about what it was last year. It was Williams, Ballou, Gasparino, Farmer. Obviously, two of those guys are gone. One is very likely in the draft. You've got Jonah Williams, who's going to be fresh off of a football season, so maybe he could use a little bit of help. But then you brought in Robbins. You have Caleb Freeman, who has the ability to do that. You have Marinik, is how you pronounce it. I'm going to
Marnick, yeah,
continue to
yeah,
struggle. Marinik, who came in, who was another really good bat. You have Pack, who's a freshman coming in, who's going to probably not going to be drafted, so he's probably going to be a good like pinch runner off the bench, going to get some opportunity. And then Easton Winfield, man, he's killing it in summer ball, and he's staying as far as we know. So the outfield had about 6, 7 guys who were able to play. So maybe the center field spot's a little bit more open for specifically center field, but maybe that's Jonah Williams, maybe it's someone like Robbins because he's got good speed. But that is a question of who is going to be the starter in the outfield. But there's a lot of options Texas has.
yeah. I mean, right now, but this was before Gaspo. What I was hearing was, I think they were looking at Robbins in right field, Marnick in
Hmm.
left field, and they were gonna,
That makes sense.
have Gaspo out in the center. But obviously, and here's the deal: is I think that this is one of those deals where the staff, when I probably got relayed this, and the staff already probably knew about Gaspo leaving. So,
Yeah.
this is kind of, I think this has kind of been one of those things where, I don't. It's been in the cards for a little bit since the end of the season, but so that makes me think, man, do they want Robbins over there in right field and left, and then Marnick in left field, and then that opens up a spot for Easton Winfield in center field, or like you said, a Jonah Williams, because Jonah Williams was hitting 300 as a freshman in the
Mhm.
SEC. Like that's just not supposed to happen at 17 years old, and him playing safety, right? Everybody knows he's really fast, but him playing
Big kid.
safety, that probably gives you a little bit of confidence in his ability to go track a baseball right in the air. So, and then also he's like an excellent punt returner. Just Jonah's just really
He's
good.
an athlete.
Yeah, he's special, right? And so, and then you know what? If there is a guy that's going to be able to play football and baseball, it's probably going to be Jonah Williams, right?
Yeah.
If I had to place a bet on an athlete that I've seen, that's the one that I'm going to place a bet on. But man, just Easton Winfield, that I can't help but feel happy for him because this is a guy that I really, it was kind of feeling, like, man, the path to getting on the field is getting really hard for him, and it opened up a little bit easier now, and he's had, like you said, he's having an excellent, not just offensively, but he's having a really good spring in that wooden bat league or out in Cape Cod,
Yep.
which also for summer baseball, that is where the top players in college baseball go to. So for him to go out there and perform in that league, that's showing some really positive signs for Texas.
Yeah, and Woodfield is, after all, a Schlossnagle guy. This is not someone who was inherited from the Pierce regime. Schlossnagle really wanted him to be the starting left fielder last year. It didn't work out, but you got to be have confidence in the guy who's going to stay around after a year where you could understand why someone like that would want to go find another team to play for. But he's now, with the introduction of Gasparino, or the loss of Gasparino, kind of the fourth outfielder, maybe the third, maybe a DH, maybe just a first guy off the bench. It's a good spot for him to be in. And like you're saying about Williams, I mean, if there's ever a center fielder who could replace what Gasparino is, it's the guy who's probably going to be a starting safety in the NFL someday. 6'3", probably the fastest player on the team right there. The gloves, obviously, the routing of the ball and actually having a really good jump on it is something different that we can talk about. But if Williams has the ability to do it, I would love to see him probably slowly get introduced in the starting center field spot, because if he plays a full season playing into the college football playoff, then they're not going to want him to be starting immediately in center field. But I can see that being the outfield where it's Robbins, Marinick, and Williams, and that sounds pretty good to me. That's a pretty good SEC outfield, and I think that's what a lot of our fans were kind of hoping would end up being the case.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned this college football playoff going like this is a deal where if Jonah's succeeding in both base, if both teams are doing really good, Jonah's not going to have a lot of time off, right? Like there's not a lot of
Yep,
downtime, so
not a lot of time
that
to
is
practice the swing.
that is one of the situations where like it does kind of feel like anti baseball, like just traditional baseball, because when you think about traditional baseball, you're thinking like, okay, yeah, my two defensive positions that I want, like I want my dude out there, and I'm willing to lose a bat or something like that over it. I want good defense at center field, and I want good defense at shortstop, right? And
Yep.
that's why you want those guys to remain consistent, because it's like rolling with two quarterbacks in the season. You don't want to ever do that, but so that is kind of going to be an interesting thing to watch. We should see pretty much if they do want to put Robbins out there in right field and Marnick in left field, we should actually see some shakeup at center field, and not because of players playing bad or anything, but just stamina.
Yeah, and it was always going to be a competition, even if Gasparino's still around. It opens it up a little more for certain players, but this
Always
outfield's
competition.
this outfield's going to be just fine even without Gasparino. There's a lot of talented players. We're going to hear quickly from Josh Holden, and then we're going to come right back at you with some more commits, some more news, and just everything Texas baseball.
Hi, guys. Sorry to interrupt, but if you're thinking about buying or selling a home in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, you need to contact Josh Holden. The Metroplex is massive, and the local real estate market is full of nuances and subtleties only an experienced agent like Josh can help you navigate. From Preston Hollow to Highland Park, Uptown to Old East Dallas, Josh will be there to guide you through the process of buying or selling your home. Now, Josh is a UT grad, a lifetime Texas X. He's reliable, savvy, and from a personal perspective, he's a really great guy to chat with. So why don't you give him a call and chat with him today about your real estate needs in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area. His number is 972-917-8081. That's 972-917-8081. Or you can reach him at his website, which is joshholdenrealestate.com. All the contact details are in the description below. Thanks so much, and back to the show.
Thank you, Josh and LC. So right now it is 12:28 p.m. on Monday, June 23rd. That's when we record these podcasts, usually around noon on Mondays. There's some rumblings going on, and we just wanted to address that there might be something happening in between when you're listening to the show and what has happened. We know of something that I don't know exactly the wording you want to go through this, Nash, but we're not missing anything in case something big happens. It might not have happened yet. We're not going to give you any hints here, but Nash, we just want to put that out there just to say we're not out of the water here.
I'm just going to say, if you see me looking over here like a crackhead every 5 seconds, that there is a very, very, very good reason that I'm doing this. So,
yeah, that's just all we're going to say.
You'll get it. You'll get it by the time you see this video, probably.
But we do have a true commitment. We have someone that we know for sure. The shortstop position was something we've been talking about all offseason. There's a Jalen Flores-shaped hole there, which whether you wanted him to return or not, it seems like the draft is the place he's going to be, especially with this addition, Timo Becerra from Stanford. It's of all the hitters that Texas has gotten, the first one that's really come from a Power 4 program, and especially an ACC school in Stanford. True veteran shortstop, played a lot of games for them this year. Has played a lot of college baseball. not really a flashy pickup, pretty low in the recruiting rankings, but when you wanna have that starting shortstop, a guy who's gonna be reliable all year, and you don't you may be out on someone like Eric Becker, who they're tying to Hosopian. This is the kind of pickup you want. It's a guy who's gonna get on base a decent bit. The walk rate's not amazing, but a lot of singles, not a ton of power, but a strong glove, super veteran presence. And for an infield that's still decently young, I think that's exactly what Texas needed, given that they weren't gonna go after and actually acquire that top tier shortstop from the portal.
Yeah, I mean, Timo Becerra, that this is something that I got pointed out in a group chat. Uh, I wish I remembered the burner's name, but give the dude credit because he actually made a good point. Stanford, their infield is, or not just infield, their field is kept by the players. So they don't have a grounds crew staff that goes out there. It's purely the player's job to keep the infield. Uh, that when you go into the SEC, you're going to have more professionally, manicured fields. Like these are like legit professional playing surfaces that you go out there, and
Yeah.
uh, all of Timo's errors were on the Stanford field. So this is something that maybe that 93.5 fielding percentage, maybe it's a little bit better. And honestly, fielding percentage isn't one of these. It's one of those stats that it's a good like general just reference point,
Does
but
not mean everything.
it's nothing set in stone, right? Like you could have a guy that looks like a really bad fielder, but he Troy Tulowitzki and these guys, they have access to stats that we don't. You could have a ball that has just wicked, just top spin that it's just like on a 99th percentile level, right? Like this does not happen to people, and then you make an error on it. That I'm willing to write off errors like that.
Yeah, of course.
This is a dude that he has a strong arm, probably just a touch below Jalen Flores. He's gonna hit really high for average. He's honestly he's the exact opposite of what you get in Cole Chamberlain, right? Cole Chamberlain, he's walking up to the plate. If he's getting on base, it's from a walk, or he might get
Or a double.
poke that pitcher, right? And not to go bad on Cole because Cole's a guy that I have a lot of hope for in the future with Jim Schlossingle and company. But just the 2025 Cole that we saw, if he got on base, it was from a walk. Timo's the exact opposite. If he gets on base, it's from a hit. His on base percentage is damn near the same as batting average. So he ain't walking a lot. But he does get it. He does get a lot of hits, and it is a very good shot that it's a single.
Yeah, I think this is your classic. Like he's probably gonna be the 9 hitter in the lineup. He's probably gonna be someone that will not be a flashy player, but man, if your 9 guy is getting on base, which was a real problem for Texas, yeah, it's so helpful to have a player that can do that.
If you're a pitcher, he's that small rock in your shoe, right? That you're not spending all the time thinking about it, but every now and then you're just like, like I hate that thing, right? Yeah, so he's a guy that I expect to see get on base a lot, and you know what? It's like that Moneyball quote that I always boys do gets on base.
Gets on base, and it's gonna be a strong duo in the middle of the infield. I think with him and Mendoza, he's just a veteran player. He was playing in that 2023 Stanford Regional. He was a good player for the team back then. He's still a good player looking for a SEC opportunity, and Texas is the one where he finds. And I do think it's a solid pickup given that they did what they could with Eric Becker, and they Chris Sopian was not someone they were prioritizing as much. He liked A&M more, goes to A&M. If that's how it works out, you remember that these players just aren't. They're not just going to pick Texas just because you want them to. Sometimes there's just things that come up that change their minds. And for someone like Becker, he was already on Virginia, so I think that's an important thing to think about. But I think Timo is the exact kind of guy that you want to bring in, a veteran glove, like you said, still a strong arm, as you're seeing now. And I was just about to say, I would love to see the lineup card. You see exactly where it fits in and how this Texas order is kind of showing up. And we have a little bit of a mock order here. I think so much can change in between now and the start of the year. But go through this order here and why you made it like this, Nash, and where you see all these hitters kind of slotting in.
I mean, Aiden Robbins, it's just you want the guy that gets on base the most. And when you're talking about like a guy that gets on base, Aiden Robbins, I think his on base percentage is it's almost in the 600 range.
Ridiculous.
So like this is there's a reason why people consider him the best hitter in college baseball, right? That's who I want number one. Okay, if he's getting on base. Number two, we'll see how this ends up being, but you typically nowadays, like you saw this with a Max Blue, your bat with the most power, your best bat, right? Uh, that's the bat that you like, not just most power, but your best bat in
You're
general.
number one.
That's and Aiden Robbins is probably the best bat, but if your best bat is leading off, right? If that's your leadoff hitter, maybe Ethan Mendoza leads off. That's where you can see there's a lot of ways that you can do this. I mean, it's one of the things is like when you go through this lineup, Robbins, Mendoza, Marnick, Rodriguez, Freeman, Livingston, Borba, Becerra. These are all really, really good hitters. Jonah Williams, really good hitter. Caleb Freeman, I already said him, really good hitter. But it's just that you can just put this lineup any way that you want to, and there's not really a bad way to put it out there.
Hmm.
But just kind of how I have this, Robbins, get him on, right? Whoever that number two is, power, power, power. Hit some home runs, maybe get some doubles. Ethan Mendoza, kind of almost. Honestly, the way that I have this lineup set up, it's like a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2,
Yeah,
1-2.
little combos.
Yeah, it's just like you got a guy, he gets on, bring him in, get him on, bring him in, because guys like Robbins, Mendoza, Rodriguez, and then Freeman and Becerra. These are all dudes that they will get on the base path quite frequently.
Yep. And I think if I had to guess right now, I would still put Mendoza as the number one hitter just because that's what we've seen. That's what Los Angeles is comfortable with. You can put Robbins in the 2-3 spot. Maybe you'd want him in the 2 with a more power bat at 3. I think Rodriguez, Marinick, and Freeman are going to be great there. Maybe you want a little more lefty-righty versatility in your lineup. That changes things. But, I mean, overall, you're seeing how much, Jonah Williams isn't even in your lineup in this. And that's how deep this order is. He'd probably be playing over Livingston if I had to guess. But I think when you're looking at where this lineup stands before we get into one last transfer, the question marks are what's third base, first base, DH going to look like? Is it Rodriguez or Borba at third base? Which one of them maybe goes to first base in that case, or is it Livingston? Is Freeman going to play first base? Who's the main DH? Otherwise, center field. Who's going to be the starting outfield? But it seems like a lot of the questions are answered outside of the obvious one, catcher, which has been left blank. But I think outside of that, there's not a lot of holes that need to be filled in this team because one more thing that came out this week, Cal Higgins, the left-handed pitcher transfer from Western Kentucky, looks like an old man. I mean, looked about 40 years old in the picture we posted up on our thing, but a 6'4", 245-pound left-handed pitcher with just some really solid stats. Obviously, he's playing in a lesser of a conference, but this is still another thing we were talking about where when we were doing our little draft of who we think the biggest needs are, of obviously catcher and shortstop's been addressed. Our third one was not just a left-handed pitcher, but multiple. And you got that with Luke Dotson last week, and we talked about him as one of the players that brought in. But Cal Higgins is another guy, 1.87 ERA in 43 innings pitched, and most importantly, 52 to 11 K to walk ratio, 1.9 opponent average, I think a .9 whip. Disgusting numbers. And again, Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers aren't playing the SEC opponents, but I mean, they've brought in 2 left-handed leverage arms that are going to really, really make an impact in the bullpen alongside Grubbs, Saunier, Flores, Moffitt, whoever you want to bring in. And I think the Higgins is a slam dunk addition for the Texas team.
Yeah, I mean, you go and you look at his numbers, dude. Like,
disgusting.
First off, alone him coming from one of the best staffs in the nation, that's a plus, right? Like because he's got experience on a good pitching staff. When you got a good pitching staff, you got a good coach. He's coming from a good coach, right? All these sort of things. Then when you go look at his stats, right? Like his expected weighted on base rate on base average, it's nuts. It's like 0.239. Like so guys just aren't getting on base versus him. He's striking out 30.8% of his batters, only walking 6.5%. And this is the other thing that you're seeing with all of these arms that Jim Schlossnagle and Max Winter are bringing in. They don't walk dudes. They strike them out, but they don't walk. And you look at this, like a big reason why is 49.8% of his pitches are in the zone. Now, he doesn't get guys to chase as much with 24.2%, and he does miss the zone 23.7, but that's still one of the best, and that's still pretty good. I would, from what I've heard, I mean, the staff is really, really high on Cal Higgins, and they believe that he can really be a like dominant force in the SEC.
Yeah, and I think when you're talking about what he does, maybe not so much the strikeout pitching and has a little bit of problems with the zone, but overall, if the fourth ball isn't the one that's coming in, it's not as big of a problem. And every single pitcher that's not just coming into this program, obviously the ones that are already in there are doing the same, but for the ones that are coming into the Max Wiener arm farm, it's they're going to be able to find that extra niche, maybe add a pitch, maybe add that strikeout pitch for Higgins, or get him to enforce more ground balls. Whatever it is, you have to have confidence that whatever pitcher comes in here, they're probably going to take that next step as a pitcher because of how good the staff is. And it's got to give you so much confidence. And you see how many names are in this bullpen. That's without any of the freshmen that are going to make an impact. It's without guys like Bryce Navarre in there. There's just so many players that you can talk about that are going to make an impact with their arms this year for Texas. And that's something to be excited about. Obviously, not done in the portal. There might be another relief pitcher that comes in, lefty or righty, but the starting pitching staff looks pretty set. I'd still like Bing being Tuesday. Riojas hopefully can hold down that Sunday spot with a full year to prepare for it. Burns, Saunier, Flores, a lot of good arms. I think it's going to transition us. Oh yeah, you have one more thought?
No, I was just gonna say, man, I think that like some of these guys like Jason Flores, Hudson Hamilton, Drew Rarick they probably aren't as appreciated by fans as much as they should, and some fans might, have it sounds stupid to say this, but might take issue uh, with them being slotted out as potential starters. But man, I could easily see a situation where you got a Jason Flores, bumps Ruger Riojas into back
Yeah,
to his old like better role that he was in because Max Weiner is very, very like he is high on Jason Flores, Hudson Hamilton, Drew Rarick, uh, and then also Cade Bing. So this is one of those deals where starting pitching is not an issue for Texas, right? Like we're pretty good on this part, and then when you go and you act like you watch like all the lefty arms that we're adding on, we're three lefty arms away from having just a 50-50 bullpen where you can go out there and you put a right-handed batter up that's good. Okay, well we're calling in Cal from the bullpen, right? So this is one of those deals where I love this. May not when it's all said and done, this may not be like a top 5 border class. It might be top 10. I love what this staff is doing, and this is probably a top 5 best like approach that they could go have taken going into the portal.
I completely agree, and let it be known, I'm just putting my foot down right here. June 23rd, I'm president of the Drew Rarick fan club. I think this guy's going to be. You'll see Wiener use a lot of different guys early in the year on Tuesday games and maybe a Sunday or whatever. I think Rarick's going to be someone that's going to break through a lot. We've got one more thing to talk about, Nash, and one more thing that every year it comes out, you kind of chagrin at these rankings because D1 Baseball does do a postseason top 25. And unfortunately, it's basically just here's the 8 Omaha teams, then here's the 8 super regional teams that didn't make it, and then everyone else. So everyone else starts at 17. Guess where the Longhorns are rated? 17th. Obviously, they did not have the 17th best year in the country. Teams like LSU, Arkansas, Coastal Carolina, or I think that top 5 is an awesome top 5 to have there. They all had fantastic seasons on their own, but Texas had a top 10 season among teams in the country. I mean, you win the SEC in the regular season. Not many teams have done it the way that Texas has done it in the fashion they did with as much cushion as they did, even with the late spots. So, Nash, I'd just love to hear your take on Texas at 17 and also some of the other spots around them.
I mean, it's just so when I was going like looking at this stuff, right? The way that I see this is like I try to go off like and I'm not going to be able to go off Baseball America. I was trying to see the past top 25. Uh, I'm interested to see where, or hold on, can you scroll down onto the Texas where the previous rank was? Because I
I
just,
think it was like 1.
yeah,
It
4.
was like
Okay,
4.
so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is my thing, right? Going into the tournament, like when you look at the previous ranks on the right, going into the tournament, like it's clear, like that's to me that's the final ranking, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's your final ranking because when you get into anybody that knows baseball, right? I don't want to say it's like it's not complete luck, right? But there is a lot of randomness that goes into this sport, and I think anybody with a brain would say that Georgia, if you give them more chances, right? They're probably going to go and they're probably going to advance more times than they lose out in the regionals.
Yeah.
Texas, similar argument. Vanderbilt, number one in the nation, similar argument. Well, they were number two, but they were number one.
Number one overall seed.
This is one of those things where I'm like, man, once you get to Omaha, like once you get into the postseason, like it just becomes so random. Like you can have a team that who in their right mind would have had Murray State ranked, right? No one.
No one.
No one. And even after, right? I guarantee you, if you were to be able to go back in time, right? No one would still stand on that hill, even knowing that Murray State was going to go and have the season that they're the postseason, because it's such a ridiculous take, right? And so I don't know. This is one of those deals where I can understand if they're saying, "Hey, this is where you finished, right? You finished tied third. You finished tied 17th, whatever." Cool. This and technically Texas finished worse than that, right? We tied like 43rd or something like that. It's not good, and that's how it should be. But this is not this isn't the final top 25. It's just this is hilarious to me, because if you were to have these teams play versus each other, it's not going to work out that way.
It's kind of a joke ranking. I mean, you go to RPI and they're 7th right now. That's exactly where I would probably rank Texas as the team. Just look at the 2 spots above. Would anyone say Duke and Miami had a better season than Texas and Vanderbilt? Would anyone say that? I don't think so. I find these. It's a little bit lazy, and I think it's like if the NCAA and basketball, 9-seeded NC State made a run. Okay, they're the 4th best team this year. That's not how it works. I think it's a little bit lazy, but we digress.
I do personally. I was going to say I do personally love that there's 4 SEC teams above the team that won the SEC in the season. So it's
right.
That is kind of that does kind of go to prove what we were trying to talk about right here.
Yeah, and I mean, I still think that Texas. We could maybe write an article about this at some point, but I'd say they had a top 10 season just off the top of my head. But either way, we did not get any big splash news during the show. Let's do one more refresh. I'm not going to say where we're refreshing. I'm not seeing anything. It's about 12:47 our time right here as we're wrapping this up.
It's going to happen in like 5 minutes.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But fun show. A lot of transfers to talk about. Still one more week for players to be able to enter the portal. Texas can get more players from there. We're about 3 weeks out from the MLB draft, so keep an eye on Baloo, Galvan, Flores. Technically, some guys like Riojas and some rookies that are at risk. If Gavin Feen or Casey Cunningham ever somehow got to Kansas,
Saunier.
What a win that'd be. Yeah, Saunier is up there as well. But I think that's really going to do it. Any last thoughts, Nash, before we get out of here?
My last thought would be the 2025 season ended yesterday, and 2026 season starts today. I know, I know it's not when the calendar year starts, but technically this is the start of the 2026 season. So let's get to it, and let's get in Omaha this year. I'd like to not watching LSU go out there and win national titles while Texas is, spin their wheels. It's not fun. So let's change that.
Gotta love the Nash Talks Texas old man baseball analogy. That's going to do it for us over here at Inside Texas Baseball. As always, I'm Veith and Nash Talks Texas. If you want to have the best coverage of any Texas sports or any sports really in college sports, go over to Inside Texas. Go shoot a subscription. We've got great articles about all the baseball transfers and anything going on with the baseball team right now. Up-to-date information about recruiting and the transfer portal, anything with football, basketball, all the sports here at the University of Texas. We've got it. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Evan Veith, Nash Talks Texas. As always, have a good one.